Thank you. Namaste, all of you. Thank you, Professor Casey. Very nice to meet you after a long time.
Yes.
It is my pleasure and honor to present my work here. So today I will be, okay, I'll just share my screen. Everybody can see my screen?
Yes, it's visible.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So this is Ganesh Chaturthi time in India. In India, this is a festival time dedicated to Lord Ganesha. I will start with taking his blessing. This is one typographical composition I did a few years back. So today I'll be speaking on teaching calligraphy in online mode, a fresh look at design pedagogy. So my talk will be mainly on three parts. One is learning calligraphy, then teaching calligraphy, and then observations and learnings. So very strange thing happened and this talk is a very special one because I was on the other side of the fence also when the lockdown started. So I became a student for a while, for 10 days. And then I started teaching like many other subjects. I taught calligraphy also in online mode. So today I would like to share my experience as a student first, and then a teacher, and then share some of the observations and what I learned. So first I will go to my experience as a learner. So as soon as the lockdown started, one famous calligrapher in India called Achyut Pala, he came up with an idea of creating a video, a calligraphic tribute to the scripts of India, dedicated to the nation. So he planned to have our national anthem, Indian national anthem, and there are 15 lines. He decided to invite 15 calligraphers from India and assigned each one a different language. So I was requested to do this line, Uchchala Jalathi Taranga in Kannada script. So Kannada is not my mother tongue. It is the first time in my life somebody has asked me to do a calligraphy in that language. Luckily, I had a colleague in IIT, Professor Arun Maskaranas, whose mother tongue is Kannada. He agreed to help me out. So first I started with finding the translation and getting the foundation right, that this is what I should write at the end of the exercise. We were given the choice to select whichever tool we want to use. Everybody was asked to write this, shoot the video of that and send it to Mr. Achyut Pala along with the final output. So the basic thing, first thing is this is the aim. This is how it should be at the end of the exercise. Then Professor Arun sent me a lot of videos on how he wrote. He is not a calligrapher, but he wrote with a pen and sent me a lot of videos. Looking at that, I learned how to write. And I started writing this so many times and started sending him each image. So during lockdown, we couldn't meet each other. We were in two different locations. Every day evening, I will take photographs of each practice sheet and send it. It was an experience to me because I have never worked in the script earlier. Then I will ask questions to him, he will answer, and that is how we progressed. So I had a lot of questions to ask, and many of the things he will mark and send it back. And slowly I started getting the grip of things, and because that language has a lot of complications and the grid structure is very different. And slowly I started picking up the relative proportions and grid structure of the script. And finally we came to a conclusion that this is how it is going to be. And then I started translating the structure into a calligraphic form. And I picked up a flat nib, which is cut in 90 degrees. And I started practicing the final form once I got the hang of things. And this is the final output, which came after 7 days of practice and learning from a person who knows the language. And then I shot the video and sent the final output. And then this was a time of lockdown, and none of the shops were open anywhere, and all the participants had problems in getting ink or good paper, all those things. Finally, it came in this video was made with 15 calligraphers writing each line in different languages, and this was published in social media and dedicated to the nation on the 15th of August in 2020 August. So after the end of the video, there is a scroll, and then all the different scripts will be coming like this, and that is how you can see the sixth line is what I have written. Each one calligrapher has followed a different style and a different tool. So the sequence what we followed in my learning is, first I learned the anatomy of the script, then I learned the grid structure, relative proportions, then the orthographical study, the sequence and spaces. Then a humble attempt was made to get the grip of local flavor of the language, and then the translation into a calligraphic style. I'll move on to the next one. Then next month onwards, I started teaching typography and calligraphy and many other subjects in online mode. Most of my students from IDC School of Design, and then I took a course in for some other universities also. So the main goal of this course in calligraphy was to help students understand the core essence of calligraphy, observe the relationship between content and form. So I didn't want the students to do something and say that just because I love the form, I made it. I needed them to understand the relationship between content and form. Like the Indian idiom that form emerges from content, I follow in all my classes. Then I encourage students to understand the relationship of visuals with meaning, called semantics. Then another goal is to learn different tools, different styles, and different methods of calligraphy to get them familiar with surfaces and inks, then integration of calligraphy with visual design. So unlike the traditional classroom, the virtual classroom has a lot of good things and bad things like any other thing existing in the world. So in online mode, the kind of sequence I followed was I start with the lectures which include introduction to calligraphy, history, different tools, styles, artists, and emerging trends and things like that. What are other calligraphers doing at the world at the moment? Then video demonstrations are given with different tools, different grips, different writing styles and things like that. So the students get to know. Sometimes with the same tool, we can have different grips and different styles also. Then I encourage them to explore on their own. So they start with basic strokes, circles and curves and things like that. And then they move on to other things, which I'll explain in due. Then assignments are given. And after feedback, the students rework on the assignments and then upload. I used Google Classroom extensively for this. And we conclude with the documentation and feedback. So I start with different tools like brush pen and traditional dip pens and flat brushes and all that. And I show them sometimes same tool, different grips, different languages, different styles. All this are shown, and these videos are accessible to students all the time. And then I encourage them to do experiments with unconventional tools also. For example, this is a plastic bottle where medicines are used, but I explained and I tried to make them do things with that also as a tool. And then some new things like, keeping 3 sketch pens together or keeping 2 6B pencils tied together and all. It creates a very different ambience and, it opens different possibilities to the students. And then in the learning process, the students start with the basic strokes, then letter forms, then word, sentence, paragraph, and a page. So first we encourage them to get the hang of basic strokes, vertical lines, curves, and things like that. Then they move on to different structure of letter forms. And slowly they move on. I mean, they try different languages and then they move on to words and lines. So first they submit their work, then I give feedback and give corrections. They rework, they submit it again, and final feedback comes. Only problem here is that because of it is digital media, an online platform, it takes 5 times the time. How much time you need is very, very much more than a traditional class, because the student has to work something, then take a photograph, send it to you. You have to download it, mark all the corrections, send it back. Then the student has to rework, again take a photograph, send it like that. So it takes a lot of time. The teacher as well as the students need to have a lot of patience. So this is an example of my interaction with a student who was working on Telugu script. And sometimes we need to help the students understand what exactly are some concepts like skew and shear. That sometimes when we write calligraphy, sometimes the image gets distorted a bit. So all these things we need to keep on taking screenshots and sending it to students. And some emphasis is given on legibility, access, proportions, placement of vowel signs. In Indian scripts, the vowel signs are extremely important. Conjunct creation is very important. The concept of counter space, uniformity, harmony, elegance and grace of calligraphy. So then they move on towards a word. So we encourage them to use, select a tool or a style which reflects the meaning of the word. So this is something to do with music. Sangeet means music. So my student is trying to create decorative strokes to create a link between what he is doing to the word music. So then we need to give them online comments on what are the corrections needed, what is the axis is a rotation is needed, or size of a matra, or things like that. Sometimes we need to find the fine balance between creativity and legibility. So now I will move on to observations and learnings. So what happened here is that the self-driven experiments, because most of the time the students are on their own in an online platform, and it led to better understanding of fundamentals because they had a lot of time, they don't have much distractions, and they did a lot of work which was self-driven. And when a student does a lot of self-driven experiments, there is always an element of surprise and joy of self-discovery, which I rely a lot on that. So that could be achieved a lot in many areas. And shifting of focus to self-learning led to more maturity. So suddenly I found that all the batches I taught during the lockdown, they had a very different mindset and a positive side, and their observation and analytical skills improved drastically during those 2 years' time. Of course, I don't have medical or scientific data to prove my points at this point of time, because as a research project, it is a work in progress, because like any other research, like we have not even cracked how to treat coronavirus. So like that, this also will take time. And what worked for us is that all the lectures and all the demonstrations, everything in videos, I put it into my YouTube channel and gave the links. And they were accessible all the time to students. So if a student didn't understand how a brush pen is to be used, or how one particular assignment has to be done, they can always access that video and rewind and play again and again. So this helped a lot. People who are shy to stop a teacher during a class, they don't have any problem, because in a video they can always go back and see. Because in real life, most of the students find it difficult to stop a teacher and ask the teacher, can you explain that again? We always say that you are most welcome to do that to students, but the thing is they don't find it very comfortable to do that. The next thing which is good about the Zoom and all this online platforms is, whatever question student wants to ask, they can ask without having an eye-to-eye contact with the teacher. So in a way, this text-based chat in Zoom, it helps a lot in people who are shy to ask a teacher face to face. So a lot of students started asking questions using this text facility, which was very, very encouraging. And this whole environment actually helped students to look inwards, learn on their own, observe things on their own, and analyze and make inferences on their own. Feedback, so there were more interactions with faculty, because they keep on uploading into a cloud platform, and then many times throughout the day or throughout the week, a faculty is there who is giving feedback. So that helped a lot in terms of improving the interactions. And a lot of focus was there, because the distractions were not there because of lockdown. So students can't go to a party, or cannot go and go outside for shopping, and all kind of things were not there. So I think that also helped a lot in terms of focus. And there is no fear at all. This fear of peer pressure and public exposure. Oh, will my work get criticized by the public, or will my classmates criticize my work? That was not there. So that was a very good thing. It it helped a lot of students to explore further. And there was a comfort level which improved, and it helps students to become more efficient. And then there are a lot of other problems also. The communication is mainly on a two-dimensional plane. There are many concepts we couldn't explain in an online platform. I'll come to that after this. So video support is needed for explaining concepts like hand grip, angle of pen, etc. So it is very time consuming. Concepts like pressure of nib on paper, or adjusting the amount in nib, bloating of ink, all this, it was nearly impossible to teach online. You can teach a sequence of strokes, you can teach how to mix colors and all that, but how do you teach pressure of nib on paper? How to handle paper? So these are the big problems. For example, in this case, the grip. If the person is not holding the pen properly, it is very difficult on a two-dimensional plane to explain to a student. The angle of pen on paper is very difficult. It is nearly impossible on online platform. Pressure of pen on ink, on the paper. How much ink to take before you start calligraphy strokes. So we failed in the three-dimensional experiences. So the grip, angle, pressure, ink flow, the bloating, the spreading of ink, the surface. Then I always believe that calligraphy is a multisensory experience. This is not only just sight. It is a question of touch, the way you touch the paper, the surface. the way you use in the kind of tool, if it is a metal nib, the kind of bite it has on the paper, all these things are there. The smell of the ink and that faint sound which comes when you draw with a metal pen on a sheet of paper. All this contribute to the experience of calligraphy. And reworking after feedback, it took a lot of time. And then peer-to-peer interaction was a big problem in online mode because of it is obvious that when 50 students are working in an online mode, it is very difficult for them to have a group interaction. So it was more of a silo-based work culture. And group projects, so it was very difficult to manage group activities or group assignments. So according to me, calligraphy has to be explored as a multisensory experience, but we couldn't do that in an online platform. And this meditative experience of calligraphy, which it was nearly impossible to achieve in an online platform when you're doing in uh, physical space and offline mode. I always personally believe that calligraphy is a very meditative experience. And the moment you dip your pen nib or a brush in a bottle of ink and from an ink container, till you finish a stroke, your mind is in an absolute bliss. This is what I believe. So I really consider calligraphy as a very, very important meditative experience. So as a conclusion, the benefits of online mode can be creatively calibrated into a pedagogic disciplines in a hybrid mode as well as in the offline mode. Among other pros, all-time access to lectures and demonstration videos, as well as individual interactions with faculty can significantly improve the learning quotient in an effective pedagogic ambience. So when you look at the future, I really feel that we have to take some things from the online mode into this. One is it will be great if you give access to all lectures and demonstration videos, access to all group instruction materials, and we need to classify all the instruction, the knowledge we give according to tools, styles, writing methods, schools of thought, materials, historical sequencing, etc. Encourage self-study, practice, observation, analysis, and inference, and create a personal calligraphic style. My goal in all these exercises is to help a student to create a personal calligraphic style. That should be the success of any calligraphic uh, teaching method. So we need to experiment with the hybrid mode. We need to look at the multisensory experience of calligraphy. We need to look at content-aware approach from students to understand relationship between content and form. And then new methods to interact with faculty. So I will stop here. I was foreseeing the overshoot because I am the last person of the day and the audience will be tired and many speakers might take 5 or 2 or 3 minutes each extra, which will have a cumulative effect. So I will stop here. This is something I did during the lockdown time. So it means from ignorance, lead me to truth. From darkness, lead me to light. From death, lead me to immortality. Peace, peace, peace. So it is all about Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya. I would like to thank everybody who contributed to this experience of mine. Actually, I want to thank Professor Arun Maskaranas also, Achyut Balaji. I will stop here and I will be very happy to answer any